Hola everyone, JB Throws here, back with another video. If you read the title and saw the thumbnail, you'll most definitely know that today we're talking about La Vibra. If you don't know what La Vibra is, it's this intamin bobsled coaster, one of two left in North America, that's located in my home park, Six Flags Over Texas. And because this park is my home park, I've ridden every ride there more than once, including La Vibra. And it's safe to say that in my opinion, this ride is terrible. It's rough, painful, and bland. Definitely the worst roller coaster in the park, in my opinion of course. So is this video a whole rant on La Vibra? Well, not exactly. If you remember, a few months ago I made a video talking about my predictions on which ride will leave Six Flags Over Texas. The whole reason why I made this video was because in 2020, Six Flags announced that due to COVID, they would have to remove a total of 15 attractions chain-wide, which is one ride from each theme park. So I did my predictions on which ride would leave. And of course I predicted a flat ride, but I said that if a coaster would leave, it would have to be La Vibra. The reason why was because it's old, has poor capacity, and is not fun in any way. So in today's video, I'm going to be exploring the idea of La Vibra getting removed even further by giving out possible replacements of La Vibra that will definitely tie into the Mexico section and still be the standout coaster that helps out the Mexico section of the park. Before I start the video though, I would like to say, if you like my content and videos, be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell to know when new videos come out on my channel. I have lots of great videos coming soon, and you won't want to miss any of them. And thank you to those who already subscribed to my channel. It really does mean a lot. Anyways, let's get into today's video. So you might be wondering, do I hate La Vibra that much that I want it to get destroyed? Well, actually, no. I never want to see a ride get destroyed, even if I hate the ride a lot, because there's always at least one person that likes that attraction, so you should never assume that everyone hates it too. So why am I saying that La Vibra should get destroyed? Well, it's not because it's bad, but because of how it helps over Texas. And let me just let you know, it's more of a con instead of a pro for the park. Why am I saying this? Well, let's analyze this coaster. First of all, each bobsled can hold up to 3 people. Sure, it can go up to 6 if everyone sits on their laps, but let's assume they don't. So we're back down to 3. Already, its capacity is very small. Now the amount of bobsleds on the course can range from 4 to 5. And in this case, let's say there's 4 bobsleds. That gives a total capacity of 12 riders. That alone is already smaller than some kiddie coasters. And for a major coaster like this one, that's a very bad con. Especially on max capacity days, this ride's wait time can range from 1 to 3 hours. I'm not even kidding. So capacity alone is already an excuse to remove this coaster. We've already seen it happen with Big Ben, a defunct Schwarzkopf coaster that used to operate in Over Texas. If this coaster got removed for capacity, La Vibra can get removed too. But let's say they still give the coaster a chance because it's popular. Well, actually, its popularity is dwindling. Sure, it has long lines, but it doesn't mean that people will actually want to ride this coaster. If it had lots of capacity, this coaster would always be a walk-on. Worse than Shockwave. And the reason why is because the ride layout is pretty bland. The only thing going for it is the bobsled aspect, but even that's kinda boring. Sure, you have no seatbelts and the restraints are not that tight on you, but it's very rough, and all you see is a tan slide. So that's another reason for this coaster's removal. And to add on to all of that, the coaster is also outdated. There's only 2 intamin bobsleds in the entire North America, and the reason why is because many of these intamin bobsleds are getting torn down since they're considered outdated and people want more extreme coasters. So it's only a matter of time before La Vibra goes away too, and these coasters will eventually reach their service life. So again, another reason for its removal. Sure, it might not happen soon, but it can happen in the future, and there's no denying it. So let's say La Vibra did get removed. What happens next? Well, obviously, a coaster does have to replace La Vibra. It cannot be a flat ride, and it most specifically has to be a coaster. Why? Well, La Vibra is what tied in the Mexico section. Without it, the area is very bland. And in every theme park, a section of the park should always have a coaster. For example, the Texas section has New Texas Giant. The Gotham City section has Batman, Mr. Freeze, and even Joker. The Tower section has Shockwave. The Boomtown section has Runaway Mine Train. And the USA section has Pandemonium, and so on and so on. There's not one section of the park that doesn't have a coaster, whether it's big or small. So without La Vibra, that will leave a giant gap in the Mexico section. So it has to be filled quickly. With what though? Well, I compose a list of possible candidates for being replacements of La Vibra, and the way to make the list is by meeting my requirements. So here are the requirements. Number 1, the coaster has to be a family coaster, or it can be applied to families. The reason why this is a requirement is because La Vibra was a family coaster, and if you replace it with an extreme coaster, we'll have way too many extreme coasters, and we need some more family attractions. Number 2, the coaster has to stand out in some way. The reason why this is needed was because La Vibra was considered the standout coaster of the park. The coaster was unique since it was the bobsled, but it also brought an experience that you can only have at Over Texas. So we need to have a coaster that can do the same, either by breaking a record or being a whole new model. Number 3, the coaster has to help Over Texas in the long run. What do I mean by this? Well, I'm specifically talking about capacity and providing a thrilling experience that never gets dull. In a simpler term, the coaster has to be popular, and again, not have any issues, like technical issues or short capacity. So with these 3 requirements out of the way, let's get into the possible La Vibra replacements. A premier dueling coaster. By this, I mean a West Coast Racers clone. And yes, I know it's a clone, but it's one of those coasters that's actually good to clone. It's not like an S&S free spin. But anyways, what makes this coaster a great replacement for La Vibra is all the good things it brings from it. First of all, its capacity is great. Each train can hold up to 12 people, and with 3 trains running at the same time, may I add. That's a total of 36 riders. Already that's a great improvement, and would definitely help the crowd flow in Over Texas. And sure, the minimum height for this coaster is 54 inches, which is not considered a family coaster, but it's close to that, and it checks off most of the other boxes. What's even better is its length. Not only does the coaster duel, making it stand out, which is another thing that checks off the box of the requirements, but it also has a long layout. Even though if you take out one track, it's short. But since the coaster goes around twice, it makes it even better, and again surpasses La Vibra. Now to those complaining that it's a clone, there's an easy way to fix this problem. Make it original. Since this coaster is going to be in the Mexico section, it has to have a Mexico theme. So here's my pitch. They named the coaster Ferrocarril Fiesta Racers, or just Fiesta Racers. The reason why I add Ferrocarril is because it's a reference to the Ferrocarril Fiesta train, a defunct attraction that used to be in the Mexico section of Over Texas. It's a perfect way to give an Easter egg to that old ride, and still give it a new purpose. Next, to make it more original, instead of the standard car trains like West Coast Racers, they can make the trains different. Instead of newer looking cars, they can make the trains look like hot rods. Specifically hot rods you'll see in a pueblo in a Central American country, which will fit in with the Mexico section. They can also add some more theming on the ride layout, like maybe you zoom through some pueblo buildings to make it look like you're racing in a village, or even bring back the Tres Amigos and the tamales and include them in the ride layout somehow, so you get to see them as you zoom past them. Also, instead of the pit stop like Magic Mountain, they can make that stop a fiesta, with mariachi music, lights, and who knows, maybe even animatronic mariachi players. Oh, and the ride color scheme should be red, green, and black, which will once again tie in with the Mexico section. And if you think this idea is impossible, well, we just got a new park president, which is Ron McKenzie, and he really is upgrading the park, adding some more theming to everything. Look what he did with Casa Magnetica, and he's giving theming upgrades to Aqua and Powerwave, which will most likely be amazing. So this idea is in the realm of possibility, but we'll never know. We'll just have to wait and see. But in result, a premier dueling coaster will be perfect for the area, and will check off most of the boxes for the perfect replacement of La Vibra. An S&S Axis coaster. At this time, the Axis coaster hasn't been released to any theme parks yet, and no theme park has bought this coaster yet. The reason why is because of COVID, and theme parks were saving their money. But when this thing improves, theme parks will have money again and most definitely will buy the S&S Axis coaster. But out of all the theme park chains in the entire world to buy this type of coaster, it'll most likely be Six Flags. The reason why is because Six Flags works closely with S&S, and they have lots of S&S coasters in their parks. So everyone has assumed that one Six Flags park will get this Axis coaster, and the park to get it first will probably be Fiesta Texas. The reason why everyone predicts this is because right now Fiesta Texas is looking at getting a brand new coaster. They haven't got one ever since Wonder Woman, and the only reasonable explanation for a brand new coaster is the Axis coaster. After all, Fiesta Texas is the testing ground for brand new attractions. They got the first inverting RMC hybrid, the first RMC single rail, the first Impala Super air race in the Six Flags chain, and etc. And while I do agree with this prediction, I would say that Over Texas isn't completely out of the question. I mean, after all, Over Texas was the innovator for brand new attractions, even before Fiesta Texas. Sure, they stopped, but with the new park president, who wants to relive the legacy of the park, we could see Over Texas return to what they were before. So what if they got the Axis coaster first? For example, let's say La Vibra really was going to get removed, and Over Texas was discussing what's going to replace the coaster. They would most likely be looking at the requirements like me. The requirements I set wasn't my opinion. These are things that a standard theme park would look for when replacing a coaster. So if they were looking at the same list like me, they would need a family coaster that stands out and helps the park as a whole. Luckily, the Axis coaster checks off all of these boxes. As shown in the trailer video for the Axis coaster, we see little kids ride it, and those kids look like they're around 48 inches. The reason why I say this is because they look like around the heights of my Thrill siblings, who are around 48 inches. And it wouldn't be surprising if the height limit for an Axis coaster was 48 inches, because that's also the height limit of an S&S Freespin, another coaster created by S&S, which may I remind you, the seats look very similar to what you see on an Axis coaster. And if that's true, that makes an Axis coaster a family coaster. Then, the coaster of course stands out. If Over Texas were to get this coaster, they would get lots of buzz for having the world's first Axis coaster, and would draw tons of people to the Mexico section, just like La Vibra did. And on top of all that, the coaster also helps the park's lineup, has lots of capacity, and helps Over Texas as a whole, which checks off the last box. Also, it's compact, and can fit in the land of La Vibra. And if they add theming, it'll make the coaster even better. So in result, this one coaster is what the park needs. It checks off all the boxes to replace La Vibra, and could honestly be the best replacement for La Vibra when it gets removed. So hopefully, if La Vibra ever gets removed, Over Texas really thinks about this, and hopefully adds the Axis coaster to their park. RMC Raptor. Now you might be wondering, how is this a good replacement for La Vibra? I thought you said you wanted a family coaster. Well, I do, but the only reason why the RMC Raptor is on this list is because I'm considering it a wild card. What I mean is, if Six Flags doesn't care and just wants to add a thrilling coaster to replace La Vibra, this is probably the coaster that will do it. Don't get me wrong, we need an RMC Raptor, whether it's a custom Raptor or even a clone of Wonder Woman, but I just don't think it should replace La Vibra. This coaster can easily replace the stadium in the back, or go somewhere that has room in the park. But replacing La Vibra is a bad choice. First of all, capacity is small, which is the same problem La Vibra had. It's way too extreme for little kids, so it removes the family coaster. And it doesn't even stand out if it's a custom RMC Raptor clone, or Wonder Woman clone. So basically, I put the RMC Raptor on this list to say Six Flags, if you're going to replace La Vibra, do not replace it with this coaster. Yes, give Over Texas an RMC Raptor, but not in La Vibra's place. Also, I wanted to acknowledge the RMC family coaster that everyone's talking about. While it is a family coaster, I just don't see it replacing La Vibra. We already have New Texas Giant, and we honestly don't need another RMC hybrid unless it's a single rail. So that's why I'm not including the RMC family coaster. But anyways, those are my predictions of coasters that are perfect replacements for La Vibra. And by the way, there's no news that La Vibra is leaving. The coaster is still here to stay. The only reason why I'm predicting its removal is how old it is, and the fact that it's reaching its service life. But at the moment, nothing's going on with La Vibra, so you'll still get to ride it another day. But anyways, what did you think? Are my coaster predictions the perfect replacements for La Vibra? Do you want La Vibra to get removed? And is there any coaster I missed that could replace La Vibra? Comment down below. Anyways, thank you for watching. This is JV Thrills, signing out.